I would like to move to Ms. Philippa Candler, the representative of UNHCR Pakistan. And what we wanted to try to understand was two things, at least from the UNHCR's perspective. First is what has UNHCR's position been and their role in this current situation, especially with the Afghans? As Mudassar Saab said, this is unprecedented. The nature of the drive is unprecedented. The kinds of harassment and other issues that Afghans are facing is unprecedented. The scale of it is unprecedented. So what has UNHCR's position and role been in this situation? And adding to this, what Saba Gul Khattak Sahiba mentioned earlier about the global humanitarian aid cuts and their impact then on the situation for Afghans within Pakistan, because and then the impact on UNHCR, and then the situation in Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is also, as I mentioned, they don't have a functioning government. There's no state in effect right now. So I wanted to request you for your views on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here today. So maybe I think that we've heard a lot in today's session from my fellow panelists, but also in the plenary sessions this morning about the wonderful job that Pakistan has done over the years in terms of hospitality to Afghan refugees for more than 40 years. And we do have to acknowledge that. The government as a whole, but also the provincial governments of KPK and Balochistan in particular, as well as others, have hosted these people, and the communities have extended the warm hospitality that Pakistan is so famous for to the Afghan refugee population. And UNHCR has walked that journey alongside the government and the people of Pakistan. We've been in Pakistan since the late 70s. We signed our first agreement with the government of Pakistan in 1979, and we have been working alongside to provide support to the government, but also to communities, and as well as to the Afghan refugees themselves over those years. But as you say, times are changing. Times are changing globally. I think that we've all see and hear, and certainly heard good examples this morning about the whole questioning over fundamental and human rights that are going on. And I think Pakistan is also involved in some of those discussions. And we are seeing, since the illegal foreigners repatriation plan was implemented in 2023, a real move to return Afghans. It's been very much premised on the security argument, of course, and we can come back to that in a minute, but the end result is that in 2025 alone, over 1 million Afghans were forced to return to Afghanistan. And as you said, the situation in Afghanistan is at best very, very fragile as well. So it's very difficult for people, even those who want to go back. If you go back in large numbers, it puts a heavy strain on the situation there. I always think of UNHCR as a rights-based protection organization. Obviously, that's our mandate, but also a pragmatic one. I think that there are ways to address the legitimate concerns of the government of Pakistan and other governments around security, around controlling their borders, but at the same time ensure that people are protected. And these are some of the discussions that we have been having with the government of Pakistan in different fora over the last 2.5 to 3 years. For example, on the security front, we're saying, yes, you have legitimate concerns, so it's better that you know who is on your territory. The latest implementation of the IFRP Phase 3, which removed the proof of registration cards from 1.4 million Afghans, has actually rendered these people illegal in the country. Now, many have gone back, as I said, but many are still here. But the authorities of the government don't anymore have that data. So isn't it better to continue to register these people, to have them documented, so you know where they are, so you know what they're doing? And also so that they can be visible members of society who could work, who could, if the government of Pakistan enacted a mechanism to do so, who could pay taxes, who could be active members of society, and at the same time it would mitigate some of the security concerns that the governments have, because they would have the information and would know where they are. So that's one of the requests that we're making to the government. For people who are here, who've been born here, who may be married to Pakistanis in some cases, who spent their life here, have a system in place to regularize their status so that for humanitarian reasons they can remain legally, but also contribute, run businesses. The other request that we make to the government of Pakistan is around people who have international protection needs, our primary mandate. So people who can't go back because they would face harm if they went back to Afghanistan. People who may be opposition to the Taliban authorities, or people who for ethnic or religious reasons do not necessarily align themselves with the Taliban ideology. Human rights activists, we've been hearing about some of the challenges this morning that human rights activists have. They still have these challenges in Afghanistan. Female-headed households, again, how are they meant to survive and bring up their children if they go back to an environment where they're not allowed to work, where they can't send their girls to school? So we're saying to Pakistan, please make an exemption mechanism for these people who are refugees and who would be at risk if they go back to Afghanistan. We think it's actually not that many. Our estimate, and this is together with the Ministry of Saffron and other partners, for people who would fall into that category is about 250,000. That's not a big number for a country like Pakistan to extend some kind of legal protection status to. And it doesn't have to be forever either. When we look at what the European countries have done for Ukrainian refugees, they've given them temporary protection, meaning that they reevaluate it, and if and when the conditions change, people can go back. Pakistan could do something similar. The third request we have is also with regard to voluntary return in dignity for other people who want to go back, and there are these people. Give them time, and I think some of the other panelists have echoed this. Give them time to wind up their affairs. If they were born in Pakistan, it's a big move to go back to a country you've never been to. And it's winter, and the situation in Afghanistan is difficult. There is a lot of food insecurity, no livelihoods, a drought. So give these people a bit more time to go back. So that's our main request to the government of Pakistan, or along those three lines. But you also raised another question about, and we've submitted proposals to this effect, just to mention. So concrete suggestions are on the table. You mentioned the global context with regard to funding. And yes, it's true, the funding situation is a big concern to UN organizations, but also many NGOs, national and international NGOs, many of our partners, we all share these concerns. It's a difficult time. We've had our budget for Pakistan cut by 50% as a result of the funding cuts, but also as a result of the government's policy, because it's hard to justify sustained funding if the government has a policy of returning people. I still firmly believe that there is a willingness to fund the humanitarian and the refugee situation in Pakistan, not least because for many donors, it's more difficult for them to provide funding to Afghanistan and Iran. So Pakistan is a country where if there are protection concessions made, I believe that there would be funding available. For Afghanistan, it's had a major impact. We hear all the time about the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan. With regard to the returnees specifically, UNHCR's budget for Afghanistan has been so dramatically cut that the return grant, the cash grant we used to give to people going back has been cut completely. It's now only a few really vulnerable caseloads that get a sum of money. And this, of course, means that people have even less means to integrate themselves, which, of course, provokes onward movement and doesn't help to stabilize people on return. So that is also a big challenge, and I think we do have to acknowledge it. I think I'll end there if I may.
Thank you, Ms. Philippa.